Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. So today we are going to be looking at the barriers to educational planning in Nigeria. Barriers to educational planning in Nigeria. No, there are different bottlenecks or challenges that actually affect educational planning in Nigeria. So the following are some of the challenges or barriers. Number one, administrative bottleneck. This can otherwise be called bureaucratic red tapeism. It is a process of delaying and ensuring that protocols are followed in the process of educational plans, plan formulation and implementation. Administrative bottlenecks involve, stage by stage processing of educational plans, which will take several weeks, months, and even years before such educational plan is finally approved. The bottleneck is usually found with the government machinery, as found in ministries, in in ministries with jobs, that pass from one stage, to another, and from one officer to another. And the process of such plan, moving from one stage or officer to another, such officer might be transferred to another ministry. The new personnel that takes over, such office, where the educational, you know, where where the educational plan requires attention, will need some time to study the document, before taking, necessary action on it. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why there will be bureaucracy or bureaucratic bottleneck in the process of effective, educational planning. Number two, economic problem. This problem stems from the scarcity of monetary resources. If, for instance, a country's economy is dependent on a single product for its foreign exchange, or it is dependent on its importation and exportation means alone, monetary resources that will accrue, to such country will be minimal, despite the fact that there will be so many sectors that will be competing for the few monetary resources that is realizable by such country. If, however, there is variety of sources of foreign exchange earning by a nation, such country stands the chance of realizing huge sum of money, which will enable her implement, you know, you know, enable her implement the proposed educational plans to its successful completion. Okay. Number three, non-commitment to set objectives. It is one thing to set objectives. It is another, to work towards the realization of the objectives. The masses, experts, and government might be such that will not be committed to the realization of the set objectives. This, however, might be as a result of non-awareness of what educational plans are targeted at realizing, lack of focus on educational matters, and even laissez-faire attitude on the part of the stakeholders in the education sector. Non-commitment to the realization of a nation's set educational objectives by stakeholders such as masses, experts, government, and so on, serves as barrier to effective educational planning. Number four, lack of adequate and efficient, information. Lack of information on the part of experts constitute big problem to effective educational planning. In Nigeria, most planning officers still use the manual information system to plan, a system that is fast becoming outdated in the modern world. And this serves as barrier to effective educational planning. Once information is still manually retrieved, of course. But in the days of the computerized management information system, information retrieval is efficient and adequate. Therefore, to overcome this barrier, countries and organizations that still operate manual means of retrieving information must change over to the computerized means of management of information. Number five, lack of knowledge about the goals of the units within the education sector. The education sector is made up of different units, which are primary, secondary, tertiary, special, technical, and of course, vocational, and lots more. Each of these units has its set objectives and targets which are clearly defined and well laid out in documents such as National Policy on Education, etc. In situations where those that are implementers of educational plan do not have proper knowledge of the goals of these units within the education sector, then there is an impending problem which serves as a barrier to effective educational planning. Number six, instability in policy. There is there is instability in policy as a result of lack of continuity of plans. You need to remember that once there is instability in the polity as a result of frequent changes in government, there will continually, okay, there will continually be instability in policy, which invariably serves as a barrier to effective educational planning. Political instability is a common feature of the third world countries. It is, to a great extent, does not augur well for educational planning of countries of the third world, and so it retards progression, achievement, and success in all ramifications. Number seven, inadequate training. Another major problem serving as barrier to effective educational planning is inadequate training for both the planners and the decision makers. The inadequacy of training stems from the non-availability of the training school in which both the planners and decision makers can get enrolled and benefit from such schools. Even in cases where the training can be held outside the country, there might not be enough monetary resources allocated for such training. Government needs to embrace training of our personnel as that is government, stands the chance of benefiting maximally from the beneficiaries of such training on planning of educational programs. Number eight, wide gap between planners and implementers. Another noticeable problem of effective educational planning is the gap between planners and the implementers. So far, the gap is still wide between the planners and implementers. So far as the gap is still wide between the planners and the implementers, it will continue to serve as a barrier to successful educational planning. But in cases where such gaps have been closed and both the planners and implementers work hand in hand, progress, improvement, success will continually be experienced. There will be positive progress report and mountains of problems, you know, and difficulties will be surmounted. On the whole, there is the need to ensure that the gap between the planners and implementers is closed so as to prevent further barrier to educational planning. Okay, then number nine, lack of prior feasibility studies. Prior feasibility studies are not conducted by most government before embarking on effective educational planning. The non-conduct of prior feasibility studies is a pointer to failure of whatever educational plan that any government might put forward. If feasibility studies is conducted or carried out before the real educational plan is written, areas of flaws, deficiencies, and inadequacies will be noted so that these can be corrected. Number 10, poor monitoring and evaluation system. Now, the absence of monitoring and evaluation system is also one of the clogs in the wheels of progress of educational planning. This is the last medium through which there can be a resolution of crisis, correction of bad activities, and ensuring that all educational planning activities are on course as expected. So these are some of the barriers, to educational planning in Nigeria. Thank you very much.